Also, why are there so many full barrels of oil just floating down this river? Does Nate even know what gas prices are like these days? Forget the El Dorado treasure, just collect these barrels and sell them for a fortune. Yo, what's going on, Tiger Bite crew? I hope you're all having great summers so far. If you have some travel planned, then best of luck at the airports because I heard it's crazy these days, so I hope you have safe travels. As for me so far, I decided to avoid the catastrophic travel issues going on right now and decided to revisit one of the classic adventure games on the PS3, Uncharted: Drake's Fortune. Before I get started, I should disclose that I played the first Uncharted game only once for like 30 minutes only a couple of years ago, right after I had finished Uncharted 4, which I absolutely loved. So after playing that game, I wanted some more of that Nathan Drake experience, and so I decided to give the first game in this series a try. But I found that the differences between the fourth game and the first game were so jarring, both in terms of graphics and smoothness of controls, that I had to stop playing. But now, with 2 years since I last touched an Uncharted game, I thought enough time had passed so that I can take a fresh look at Uncharted: Drake's Fortune with fresh eyes and an unbiased mind. I know that there's a remastered version available on the PS4 now, but I wanted to stick with the original and see if this was really a great game, whether I actually hated it, or if it was something in between. So with that, let's dive right in. First, let's talk about the game's story. We all know that the Uncharted games are famous for some great storytelling. In the first game, you play as Nathan Drake, a modern-day treasure hunter who is trying to track down the lost treasure of El Dorado using clues left behind by the diary of Sir Francis Drake, who is supposedly Nate's ancestor. So basically, you're a much cooler and violent version of those guys from the Titanic movie that interrogate a 100-year-old woman for her diamond.
That really sucks, lady!
You quickly learn that El Dorado is not a city, but a massive gold statue, and so you're following clues piece by piece to figure out what happened to this treasure while fighting off mercenaries and pirates that are also coming after it. And then you figure out that the Germans were also seeking this treasure back during World War II, and so a good chunk of the game has you trying to figure out what happened to them. And then you stumble upon a really weird twist that comes absolutely out of nowhere. Like, when I saw it for the first time, I was like, huh? I mean, it really came out of left field. I'll discuss how I felt more about it later on. But throughout this game, reaching your goal is never straightforward, and you face plenty of twists and turns along the way. There aren't any old women standing between you and your treasure like in the Titanic, but there are plenty of mercenaries, pirates, and some other things that I won't spoil along the way in this grand adventure. But overall, I thought the storyline was actually exciting, even though it gets a little bit repetitive and tedious at certain times. Now, let's talk for a second about Nathan Drake, because this is the game that introduces you to the hero of the series and one of Sony's headline mascots. Nate is like a blue-collar James Bond. If you went to a bar with both James Bond and Nathan Drake, Bond would order a Vesper Martini while Nate would get lost, and you'll have to find him at the bar doing tequila shots with a bunch of spring breakers. And Drake appears to have superhero powers, with his ability to climb cliffs and other structures with unbelievable speed. So much so that if you play any of the Assassin's Creed games after you play Uncharted, you'll think, damn, Altair and Ezio kinda sucks at this compared to Nate. Speaking of which, Nolan North, who is the voice actor that plays Nathan Drake, also plays Desmond Miles in the Assassin's Creed series. Coincidence? Okay, let's take a look at the gameplay. This game is what you would get if Indiana Jones, Lara Croft, the Prince of Persia, and James Bond all had a baby. It's a strong mix of platforming, puzzle solving, and exploring various ruins, temples, and bunkers, and a U-boat? I was really reluctant to compare this game to any of the Assassin's Creed games because Uncharted isn't open world. Even though this game is fairly linear from level to level, there's still a good amount to see and do. While the settings for the vast majority of the levels take place in jungles, caves, ruins, and temples, Naughty Dog did a pretty good job with changing the scenery up so that you're seeing different types of jungles, caves, ruins, and temples. And each one looks pretty different from the others, so you're always experiencing a familiar yet new environment in every level. Also, in each level, there's hardly ever a straight path to your destination or goal. Every door is locked, every path is blocked, and every bridge is half missing. The game should be called, oh look, you can't go that way, so let's find a detour. It also keeps you on your toes, and you get to see unexpected detours as a result, but it was so predictable after a while. The graphics are also pretty spectacular for an early PS3 game, and I can imagine how excited people probably were when they saw Nate's clothes fluttering as he navigates various terrains, and how he becomes drenched with water whenever he has to swim across lakes or underground caves. The environments also feel alive and immersive. Even though the levels are linear, they also feel grand in scale, if that makes any sense. For example, you hear cave or underground ancient temple and you think it's going to be small and limited, but actually in this game they feel more like you're traversing the mines of Moria in Lord of the Rings or Gringotts in Harry Potter. Each level feels like you're traveling miles, and you rarely end a level in a place that looks similar to where you were at the start just 20 minutes ago. Oh man, and the game also has amazing music, truly epic music that sets the scene for your grand adventure, and it does a fantastic job at making you feel like you're watching or even living through a high-end Hollywood movie. There's also great voice acting, and you can tell that Naughty Dog put a lot of effort into getting this right because all the characters feel believable. The game was also so great at using music to build tension. You know something is about to go down when the music starts to ramp up and get more intense. And this might be a more controversial opinion, but except for the jet ski levels, we'll get to that later, the other vehicle levels were fun and refreshing. Even though it was basically just pure destruction with not a lot of depth, it was somewhat relaxing and simple compared to the other parts of the game. Some people really hated these parts, but I thought it was a refreshing break from the game's other levels. Alright, so even though there were a lot of things to like about this game, we have to talk about some of the negative aspects. Probably the most frustrating part was the combat. I absolutely hated how the enemies are all seriously just bullet sponges. You basically have to unload an entire clip into a single enemy just to kill him. I mean, what the hell are these guys, T-1000s from Terminator 2? Seriously, the game even makes AK-47s feel like BB guns. You can sometimes get one-hit kills from headshots, but this is super unreliable and unpredictable because the aiming system isn't very refined and the combat controls are a little funky, so you'll miss a ton of times too while you're spraying and praying. And so, because defeating even a single enemy takes so many bullets, you're always scavenging around for ammo and therefore exposing yourself to enemy gunfire. There were so many times where I died because I ran out of ammo in both my primary and secondary weapons and kept getting shot in the back as I'm running around like Upham from Saving Private Ryan around the battlefield looking for more. And so conserving ammo is a serious issue that you deal with throughout this game, and it's not unlike a fun way too, like in The Last of Us, where every bullet you find seems like it'll help you when you really need it. In Uncharted, finding bullets becomes a chore because you'll know that you'll need at least 5 to 10 to put down a single enemy. I would often have full ammo and feel great in 1 second and then be completely out of bullets only 2 minutes into the next enemy encounter. Also, my god, all of this is even more frustrating by the fact that there are always endless swarms of enemies. I'm not even exaggerating, there are at least 5 waves of enemies for every encounter. Like, great, you finally beat those 10 guys with 500 bullets. Congratulations, here are 10 more. Good luck finding some more ammo by scavenging around for the 10 dudes that you just beat and picking off bullets from their bodies. Also, when you defeat a wave of enemies, the next wave sometimes spawns behind you or even right next to you, so you don't even have time to relocate before they shoot you down. It was so infuriating when you're up to wave 4, and then they jump down right next to you with shotguns and blow you away. And then you'll have to start from wave 1 all over again. And these swarms of enemies are also pretty good at trying to flank you at every opportunity that they get. They usually don't stay in one place and are charging at you until they're right next to you. So if you're not paying attention, there could be 3 dudes with shotguns right up against you and it'll be too late. You know that you can only take one of those bullet sponges down with 1 clip, and so you have to reload, which takes forever, which gives the enemies enough time to put you down. It gets really frustrating at times. Also, they keep lobbing unlimited amounts of grenades at you, which forces you to keep running around while exposed to their gunfire. They're also expert grenade throwers too. Seriously, every grenade that they throw lands at least 2 feet from you. So let's get this straight. So basically, you're up against waves of Terminators that also apparently play Division 1 level baseball during their free time. It's also unfair because while your aim controls aren't too great, the enemies have amazing, if not perfect aim and always manage to hit you at whatever distance, no matter how far away they are. The fight mechanics are also super clunky at times. There were times when I couldn't find a single place where I could take cover, and even when I did find something, the game makes you look over the wrong shoulder when you aim, so you can't even see what you're shooting. Apart from the combat, another major problem that I had with this game was the repetitiveness. Every level boils down to some combination of trying to unlock a locked door, solving puzzles to get around that locked door, fighting endless waves of enemies, and then something somehow goes wrong and you'll have to find a detour. And then you'll find the next clue in finding out what happened to the El Dorado treasure, which points you to the next clue located like 50 miles away. It's like having a carrot dangled in front of you on a string where you hardly ever seem to make any significant progress. Okay, don't get me wrong, I thought the game was a lot of fun and the setting was fantastic, but I wish there was some more variety in the environments that you encounter. People love the James Bond and Mission Impossible movies because of all the different locations that you get to experience in each movie. For example, in one movie, you can find Bond fighting in an African village, to flying to the Bahamas, to running in the desert and flying back to London. The later Uncharted games, especially the fourth one, does a much better job at this than the first game. I was hoping that this game would change it up a bit and let you explore different types of environments and landscapes. Like 90% of the game is just different variations of jungle, ancient ruin, and lost temple. That is, until they really switched it up and threw a curveball at you towards the end. I'm not gonna spoil it, but the ending came out of nowhere. That twist was extremely Naughty Dog. It was unsettling and I didn't really like it. It just felt out of place with the rest of the game, and it almost felt like I was playing an entirely different game altogether. And as I was playing through these final levels, I couldn't help but miss the more carefree jungles and normal temples that I previously complained about. It was all really out of place and kind of jarring, but not in a good way. And oh god, let's take a moment to talk about those infamous jet ski levels. They were one of the worst vehicle levels that I've ever seen in a modern video game. It truly reminded me of those hovercraft levels in Diddy Kong Racing for the Nintendo 64, like driving a car backwards over jello. In these levels, Nate is driving while Elena is riding behind you, taking care of the shooting. And unlike other levels where you can only control Nate, you can control Elena to shoot enemies. That's right, Nate apparently is a stickler for driving safety rules and needs both hands on the steering wheel, and so he can't drive and shoot at the same time. So Naughty Dog thought it was a great idea to make you drive your Zamboni up the river as Drake, but when you encounter enemies, you would have to stop driving, switch to control Elena, and shoot them. What? Why? That means that every time you need to shoot, your jet skis are completely stationary, with Nate just looking on as Elena does all the shooting. It truly makes no sense whatsoever. Also, why are there so many full barrels of oil just floating down this river? Does Nate even know what gas prices are like these days? Forget the El Dorado treasure, just collect these barrels and sell them for a fortune. Another nitpick that I had was that you can only hold 2 weapons. I really wish I could hold more because I'm constantly choosing between having 40 bullets with the worst pistol or 12 bullets with a magnum that can one-hit kill enemies. I always chose the extra bullets. I also wish Drake ran a little faster too. There isn't a sprint button, and so it was weird to see this demigod that can climb 10-story cliffs in 5 seconds, kick down 1,000-pound ancient pillars, but run like he's a 70-year-old corporate executive at the company 5K. There's also no real stealth to this game, which is a bummer. There were a handful of times when I thought that the game was encouraging me to sneak with the guard faced away from me, but as soon as I got close, everyone was automatically alerted to my presence, and that was that. And don't even get me started on that last boss fight, because how on earth did Naughty Dog think that that was a fitting way to end this game? But I'm just not even gonna get into it. Alright, so all in all, this game wasn't perfect by any means, but the mixture of an epic soundtrack, realistic voice acting, and an exciting storyline makes you feel like you're watching or maybe even living through one of the old summer blockbuster adventure movies that we all love. Yeah, it has its flaws for sure, but they were just frustrations in a fantastic and exciting game. I had a blast revisiting the first game in the Uncharted series and was really hooked on the story. The climbing, platforming, the adventuring going on in each level kept me coming back for more. Like, the game gets it. It has the entire formula to make an amazing game, and it comes pretty close, but it just needed a few more ingredients added to make it perfect. So, on a scale from great to hate, I would rate Uncharted Drake's Fortune as a resounding great. It's a fantastic adventure game, and I can see why it was revolutionary when it first released, and we remember it as such a classic even today. So I'm really excited to continue through the series and see what changes Naughty Dog implemented throughout the years and see how they eventually created one of the greatest game franchises of all time. And that's it for this review. Let me know what you thought about the game or if there was anything that I missed. And make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel to join me on this adventure together going forward. As always, keep the flame going, and until next time, peace out everyone.